Hello, my name's Lad Dunfield and I'm the pastor of the St. Andrew's Baptist Church here in St. Andrews. This coming week we're starting a series on who does Jesus say he is? Not on what anybody else says he is, not on what your neighbor says or what even anybody else in the Bible says about Jesus, but who is it that Jesus claims to be? What is it that Jesus says about himself that would have an impact not only on the time in which he lived, but all down through the ages, that would make Christianity the largest religion in the world? What is it that he claimed that is transformational in the life of people who are followers of Christ? There's a great story told in the Bible. It's found in John chapter 8, and it's the story of a woman caught in adultery. The Pharisees have decided they're going to trap Jesus and bring him up and give him a question that there's no right answer, no wrong answer, but whatever he says is going to trap him and cause trouble for him. If he says to stone the woman, which was the rule of the day according to their teachings, then he would be in trouble with the Romans, and the Romans would arrest him for advocating murder. If he said, let her go, then they would say, but that's not what Moses said. And Moses is the most important aspect of this story. So as a result, since Moses said to go ahead and stone her, then you would be going against the traditions of the church. But Jesus doesn't fall for that. Instead, he simply says a few words. He that is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Now this is an interesting aspect of what Jesus is saying to them. He's saying, whichever one of you guys standing there, ready to pick up stones and kill this poor lady, are you pure of heart? Are you the kind of person that can be sure of their conscience? You see, what Jesus is telling us is that none of us have the right to judge each other, because none of us judge from a pure heart. We always have alternative motives for why we judge. It might be jealousy. Oh, I don't think that new car that my neighbor bought is very nice. I think it's a piece of junk. The reality is, you're probably deep down in your heart thinking, wow, what a beautiful car. I wish I had it. A lot of things that we do in life is why we shouldn't judge other people. We don't know their motives. We don't know what's going on in their life. We don't know why they act the way they do. And we shouldn't go about condemning someone simply because it doesn't fit with our agenda, how we see things. We need to be really open to that and understanding of that. Jesus says, don't judge that you be not judged. In other words, you don't want people judging you in the same manner that you judge other people. And I think that's really important for us to understand in this day and age. We live in some hard times right now. This COVID is very frightening to a lot of people. We also live in a time that a lot of people think are very hard times and even harder times to come. And as a result, people are always finding fault with each other, back and forth, back and forth. In our politics, if you are liberal in your politics, there's not a conservative in the world that can ever do anything that seems right to you. And if you're a conservative, there's nothing that a liberal can ever do that seems right to you. But the reality is that both sides of the spectrum do lots of good things for the benefit of our nation. But they also do things that we might not agree with and might not be good for the nation. But our life shouldn't be that we spend it judging these people. We should be trying to encourage them and strengthen them. And that's what Jesus wants us to do. Instead of putting people down all the time for disagreeing with us, then we need to start and look at the other side of the coin. Jesus says, if you have no sin in your life, if you can honestly look in the mirror and say you don't have selfish motivations, greedy motivations, self-centered motivations, or political motivations, anything like that, in dealing with someone else, then maybe you have a right to go ahead and judge that person for what they've done. Now, I'm not saying that you excuse what other people have done. Somebody's breaking into your car at 2:30 in the morning. You can pretty well judge that that's not right. That goes against our civic law. That's punishable, so on and so forth. But you shouldn't condemn that person or take law into your own hands because of what you see. There's a punishment that's due for that. But you could look at things from a different perspective. That's all Jesus did with the woman caught in adultery. He said, you guys are ready to condone her and to punish her, and actually you want to kill her. But in just a few short verses in this series in John 8, we'll see that Jesus says, you guys have murder in your heart. You want to murder me. And yet you want to kill this woman for adultery. Now the thing is, Jesus says, if you don't have any sin, go ahead. But if you have sin, then don't. I think it becomes important to us with the next things that Jesus says. After he said that, if you read John 8, the crowd begins to disperse because the crowd understood something, that Jesus was right in what he said. They did have sinful hearts. They didn't have the right motive. They weren't interested in this woman. They were using her to try to get at Jesus. And so Jesus waits, and after all the crowd is gone, he asks the woman, he says, hey, where are they? Has no one condemned you? And she answers, no one, sir. No one has condemned me. And Jesus says, then neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. I want you to think about that. Jesus says to us, we don't have the right to condemn or judge someone. But then Jesus comes and says to the same woman, neither do I judge you or condemn you. You see, Jesus says, we're so busy, we humans, judging each other, finding fault with each other, picking on each other, attacking each other, and we always do it from false motives. Now, don't be telling me that you think, oh, okay, I'm doing it because I really am wanting this to be. No, you're not really. Let's be honest. If you dug deep into your heart, we all have alternative motives for what we do. But Jesus doesn't. Jesus says, I don't condemn you. Now, I want you to think about that again, because here's the point. You and I do have sinful hearts. We do things that are wrong. We are selfish. We are greedy. And Jesus says, I don't hold that against you. I love you anyway. And it doesn't matter what your sin has been or what you've done. It doesn't matter what you've gone through. It doesn't matter where you've been. Jesus says, you know what? I will forgive you. Just don't do it again. Go and sin no more. Let it go. Don't hold on to all that anger and that frustration you have. Don't hold on to all of that anger that you have over what somebody has done to you. Remember, I told you a number of weeks ago that I met a man who hadn't talked to his brother in 12 years over an incident that took place at their cottage over one of his sons doing something, and his brother spoke out against it and gave the boy kind of a talking to, and this guy took offense at it and hadn't talked to his brother in 12 years? Man, don't condemn each other. Life's too short. We've got enough problems. If you've got people in your family, things have gone south, things aren't working, try to patch it up. Try to make things work again in your life. You know, you don't want to go to your grave thinking, I haven't talked to my brother in 12 years. One of the joys of my life is I talk to my brother every day or every few days. And we chat. And we keep up. I don't know what I'd do without that relationship. He encourages me, I encourage you. So let's stop condemning each other. Finding fault with people in the family, that's where we can start. And let's start sitting down and trying to heal and mend fences and try to bring things together. My friend Cameron was a young man in his early 20s and was working in a service station just off a freeway in the United States, down in the state of Tennessee. And a guy came in and robbed the convenience store, the service station. And then he took my friend Cameron out back and he said, kneel down out on back in the back of the place. And he shot him through the back of the head. And then he stood over him and waited to make sure that he was dead. When he was sure that Cameron had died, he went back, got in his car, and drove off onto the freeway. But Cameron wasn't dead. He had known better than to try to even stir, and the whole time he laid still. And when the man left, he made it back in, was able to phone for help. And eventually, just very shortly after, they caught the man who had shot him and put him in state penitentiary. But here's the thing. Jesus says, is there anyone who condemns you? And he says, stop condemning each other. Stop judging each other. I one time asked Cameron, I said, how do you feel about that? And he said, well, it's really simple, lad. He said, I'm not mad at the guy. I'm not angry at him. I don't hate him. He said, in fact, I felt very, very sorry for him. He was a man who had to shoot an innocent person for no reason. He said, well, what did he think he was going to accomplish? It was just this anger and this hatred in his heart that made him do what he did. And he said, in fact, I pray for him. I tried to visit him in the penitentiary, but they wouldn't allow me because I was a victim. And he said, as a result, he said, I prayed for him. And he said, I prayed for years now. I haven't talked to my friend in many years. But I'd guarantee you, he's still praying for that guy. Jesus says, you know, where are those that condemn you? She says, they're not here, Lord. He says, then neither do I condemn you. Let go of this stuff. Let go of the stuff that's dividing you in your home, in your family, with your kids, with your spouse, with your in-laws, with whoever it is, and try to make peace. Just be the bigger person. Try to make peace and get things straightened out. They bring the woman to Jesus, and they bring her so he can condemn her. And instead of condemning her, he pardons her. He says, I forgive you. I don't hold your sins against you. Maybe that's what we need to start doing. If you are interested in finding out more about the character of Christ, we're going to be doing a 7-week series on who Jesus is. And I think that you'll see an amazing aspect. So I invite you, Baptist Church here in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, drop by. Our meetings are at 10:30 in the morning, our worship service, and take part. Come and hear more about what Jesus has to say about who he is. He's the forgiving, pardoning one. Anyway, thanks for watching. My name's Lad Dunfield. I'm the pastor of the St. Andrews Baptist Church, and on behalf of the deacons and the leadership of our church, I want to wish you a good day. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.